Hello everyone and welcome to When Tomorrow Comes. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that I am not Ian Anderson. My name's Dan Jestico. I'm ICNI's Director of Futures and I'm very happy to be joined today by two of my colleagues, esteemed colleagues. Ashley Cook. Hello Ashley, how are you?
Hi Dan, good thanks, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks, very well. We've also got John Mumby. How are you, John?
Good, thanks Dan.
Good, excellent. Well, very glad you could both join us today. The subject of this week's vlog is co-living. As you may have seen, our ICNI weekly email covered the topic of co-living. The email itself was authored by our Manchester colleagues, Lucy and Justine. Unfortunately, they were unable to join us here today, but we're going to be having a bit of a chat about co-living and some of the challenges and strengths of this new property sector. Ashley, would you be kind enough to give us a bit of a summary of the content of this week's email?
Yeah, sure. So I think what Justine and Lucy were sort of trying to capture was the fact that during sort of the midst of coronavirus, a lot of people were questioning what future building types such as co-living have in a post-COVID world, when we're all having to deal with being on lockdown or social distancing and how that can work. And I think the article kind of set out quite neatly the fact that actually there are some instances where it did work quite well during COVID. So people were able to use apps to communicate with one another, and they were still able to use their communal spaces, but it was very organised and very kind of coordinated. So it was different to the sort of co-living that people may have signed up to before, but it was still something that was able to work. So I think they were just setting out some of the ideas, some of the pros and cons around it, and how it may move forward. Probably it will move forward in maybe a slightly different form than it has been previously.
Okay. Because it is quite interesting. I mean, obviously the co-living as a kind of concept will face a number of challenges with COVID and coronavirus, keeping surfaces clean, keeping people apart and everything like that. And I suppose it's down to good management to kind of make sure that happens, really, isn't it? John, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks Dan. The management of the buildings is the opportunity and the benefit that co-living operators have. And also the adaptability that they have in what they're providing. The format is set up that the spaces are used by everyone, which does, I suppose, fly in the face of social distancing and the severe elements of lockdown that we had in this country, even though I don't believe that we can classify ourselves as being in lockdown now. But the ability to change their format and bring in how those spaces are used is certainly going to be a benefit to them. And this is why I think that the view of will co-living work and does it have a future, the proof's going to be in the pudding, because they can adapt, they can change, they can alter their model as they need to do so. And just looking at what's been delivered to date and saying, well, that's how it's going to stay for the future, isn't going to ring true.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, I suppose we're all having to adapt the way we live and work to deal with the pandemic.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think one thing that we found is, even though coronavirus, is maybe a sort of moment in time, and certainly our experience in lockdown was a moment in time, we have seen that sort of planning officers and planning committees are drawing more attention to aspects of development schemes, such as community space, unit sizes, how people enter and exit the buildings, and that sort of thing, to make sure that they function in a way that is suited to if we were to have to sort of experience another lockdown. And those are questions that are being asked about, regular housing types or regular apartment schemes. So I think that one of the key challenges will be for sort of co-living providers being able to produce a scheme that works, but also something that planning authorities are on board with. Because even before coronavirus, I think some local authorities were pushing back already on co-living schemes. And so this potentially makes it just that slightly bit more challenging than it even was before.
John, what's been your experience with local authorities and co-living? Are they sort of warming to the idea now?
Local authorities were definitely warming to the idea, and don't forget that we have a draft and very much emerging London plan policy on co-living for a number of people. It's an education piece with local authorities, especially outside of the dense urban areas, in terms of exactly what it is, and that's really is a lot of the challenges that are faced by developers and those wanting to bring forward this product. That nervousness is only going to be amplified with what's happened with COVID-19. The article, the ICNE article that's gone out this morning has spoken about Manchester City Council, who have previously taken a rather proactive response to co-living, have decided to effectively put a moratorium on it. However, but this does take me back a few years, show my age, where a lot of councils got very nervous about purpose-built student accommodation and put the brakes on that quite quickly. And then it has come back as an incredibly viable and real development type that is actually has a number of benefits. Notably, it's taking people out of the existing housing stock, which is a benefit that co-living will have. The nervousness is not going to go away from local authorities overnight. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of convincing of operators to get councils on board. But that's just knowing it and being able to promote your product and demonstrating the benefits that it has.
You mentioned student living. I mean, one of the kind of portrayals of co-living is it's just student living for young professionals. Is that really true? I mean, do you see the demographics of co-living changing, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that John and I had spoken about this before, and I think I share his opinion that it will be more sort of short-term living going forwards. I feel like what people think of as co-living, I think that I fit into that demographic of the type of person that you would see in a co-living sort of scheme, but it's not something that I would ever be keen to live in, and I don't think I know anyone of my generation who has lived in it or would want to either. So I'm not sure. I think that, you know, the kind of the market area for it might change. It might be for a more temporary sort of period, or for people who are just sort of wanting to move into a city for a short time to experience something. You know, for example, there's lots of people who come to London to get short-term intern work style experience, and maybe that's somewhere that they will live. So it could be that you're right. It is almost an extended kind of student living environment, but I think that the way for them to draw in more people is going to be for them to improve those services that are offered and make sure that they are up to the standards that people want, and then potentially people might want to stay there for longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's the diversity and range of services that interest me, because obviously, as John alluded to, the adaptability of that is kind of key to catering for different demographics. I mean, one of the most successful co-housing schemes has been the older women's co-housing scheme up in North London, which is obviously targeting a completely different demographic. And I think the adaptability in serving certain markets is going to become key moving forward. And how John, how do you think co-living schemes can best integrate themselves with sort of local communities and show that they're actually providing benefits to local people, as well as kind of enlivening particular town centres and whatnot?
Thanks, Dan. Not an easy question there, in all honesty. Thanks for putting that one to me. It is certainly a question that I've asked co-living operators and developers. Is a product that provides a huge range of services and benefits that goes with a certain lifestyle choice. And as Ashley has said, not necessarily a demographic, but more of a choice of the people who want to be there. And if you're providing all those services, everything is provided in one location. So how do you build places and how do you build communities around these developments? And that is certainly a real challenge to developers to be able to demonstrate that and show where the benefit of their developments come from in terms of wider businesses and services, community groups, etc. The point about their location in urban areas is incredibly sort of prevalent at the moment when we discuss about how city centres are struggling with COVID, with more people working from home. These co-living schemes do, though, have, of course, the opportunity to provide a number of benefits by bringing people back into dense urban areas and getting those people moving around to benefit some of the other services and shops and facilities, etc., that are in the area.
I suppose that's a really good point. Is it sort of providing sort of rejuvenation benefits to city centres is a kind of key factor. Ashley, I'm going to ask you a difficult question now. Sorry about this. What's the future of co-living?
I think that the future of co-living is that it probably won't be called co-living. I think that everything rebrands and becomes something different, you know, to meet whatever the market sort of needs at that point in time. So I think John had alluded earlier that, you know, co-living will continue, but it'll be in a different form. And I think that probably within time, it'll probably have a different name. And yeah, it will be sold on the services and the facilities that it provides, and you know, targets very specific markets, and it will probably still work. But you know, the whole point is that people choose to live in different ways, and they're always adapting as well. So we're still going to need something that offers a type of living like this. But I think it will just probably change in the way that it's branded and marketed.
Okay, I think that's probably it for this week. Again, thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Ashley, for your contributions. Like to thank everyone for watching, and hopefully see you again soon.